You got two major contenders, Canucks and Penguins, down 0-3. For the Penguins, obviously people are going to look at just sloppy defensive zone play, poor goaltending from Marc-Andre Fleury. For the Canucks, though, a little more difficult to figure out. Dennis, you're a West Coast guy. You see the Canucks more than some of us in the East Coast. Why are they down 0-3?
It proves that Daniel Sedin is the MVP of this team. I think it's as simple as that. I've seen in the first three games, I saw the last one in Los Angeles here, Henrik skates around and looks for his brother and skates around and continues to look for his brother, and he can't find his brother, and he passes the puck to David Booth or Mason Raymond, who are scrubs. Okay, so that's the problem, right? You got a guy, $4.5 million deal for Booth. They traded Samuelson, who's a proven playoff performer, who, by the way, has 4 points in 3 games for the Panthers, and Marco Sturm. I just think that's the issue. Plus, the other thing is as really good as Ryan Kessler was last year, guys, he's not the same player after that hip surgery. His numbers were way down. He's not the force. He's not the offensive guy he was last year. I think that's a huge issue. And it's not been goaltending, and their defense really hasn't been good. And Milbury said it tonight. It's like these guys have to stand up when the games are important. Well, there's not a more important game than tomorrow night, so they got to win this game. But I think Daniel missing really proves his 10 power play goals during the season. He is their MVP, and he's really one that makes them go. So I think that's the major part of the equation here in Los Angeles.
Joe, are you surprised at how good the Kings have been in this series?
You know what? I'm not. I'm not at all, because the defense has been there for them all season, and John Quick is East Coast bias being what it is. Nobody's really seen Quick too much, but he's been awesome all season long. The issue for the Kings has always been scoring goals, and now with Jeff Carter in the fold, they've got 2 lines that they can roll out there and be very good offensively. And that was really all the Kings needed. They just needed to be able to find a way to put the puck in the back of the net. John Quick and the defense was going to take care of things. And Drew Doughty's looked awesome in the second half. Willie Mitchell's been a beast in this series. And listen, Kings are a very good team, and they're an 8 seed, but they're a very deceiving 8 seed. They're a team that very easily could have wound up third and been just as strong. But it's a bad draw for the Canucks, and Canucks just haven't been good at all in the series, and the Kings are taking full advantage.
And I'll vouch for the fact that Joe stays up late to watch the Kings. He's around watching them live, so I can vouch for that.
All right, well, let's move on to the Penguin series, and the latest fun punch in that one is T-shirts right now for the Flyers. I guess a response to Sidney Crosby's recent tirade after a game, or comments after a game, I should say. They have a T-shirt now that's out that says, "We don't like you either." So saw somebody tweeting that the other day. But on that series, has it just been undisciplined defensive zone coverage and bad goaltending? Can we just say that, Dennis, or is there more to it?
No. There is a huge difference in coaching. You have one guy who I think had 12 or 14 rookies in his lineup this year. The other guy has all-world players and the 2 best players in the world on his team. Dan Bosman's getting badly outcoached. Right? You've had leads in these games. I know Fleury hasn't been good, but you've got to figure out a way to stop the momentum in game. Right? You make adjustments in game. Laviolette calls early timeouts in games, gets his team together.
Yep.
There's a huge difference here in coaching. And I love Dan Bosma.
So what happened? I mean, is he all of a sudden just a bad coach? And then the other part of it, too, and we're talking with our producer here in studio off air, Marco Polo, is a huge Penguins fan. And I said, what the heck happened to Jordan Staal? I thought he would be a huge X factor in this series. And I've likened Jordan Staal to the modern day Bob Gainey, who can play any role for a team, big and strong and physical, clutch player. And he's just not, dominating either in this series, even though all these guys have gotten on the score sheet goals or assist wise, but they're not dominating like they should be. Joe?
Staal's taking a lot of heat, but there's so much blame to pass around for how Pittsburgh's doing in this series. It's tough to single anybody out, and Staal should be better. There's no doubt he's a great player. He's a great two-way player, and he's a guy that should be helping shut down some of these guys for Philadelphia. Philly rolls out there with Briere and Giroux is just too much of a handful to try to deal with. And I noticed a lot in Game 3 that we saw Crosby going head-to-head with Giroux. And listen, we don't see Sidney Crosby out there on the PK for the Penguins. He's not a guy that's going to defend well with somebody like Giroux. And That should be a matchup where Stahl's out there trying to match up on him, and Stahl's a big guy, but Dennis makes a great point. I think Bilesma's just getting outcoached, and it all began in that final regular season matchup where Bilesma went off in the post game saying that the Flyers were doing a lot of stuff to get under their skin, and he was tired of it. He wasn't ready for it, and these two teams meet up in the playoffs, and all of a sudden it became about trying to get back at them. The Flyers have been in their heads the whole series, and it's affecting everybody. You see Letang doing poorly, Stahl's doing poorly, Malkin's getting frustrated by a 19-year-old. This whole team is just a mess right now.
Guys, does Dan Bilesma lose his job if they get swept in 4?
No way. No, he's not going to lose his job. He's going to be embarrassed. They're going to have to figure out another way. I just think maybe their defense isn't as good as we thought it was, right? Letang's an offensive defenseman. Some of their other guys, Paul Martin deal's looking real bad right now. I think that's a bad signing right there. But I don't think he loses. I mean, he's a great motivator. He's not a great X and O guy, right? Because back in the day, remember who he replaced? Michel Therrien, who decided with this great team to dump and chase and play a 1-3-1 trap. Right, so Malkin said, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that." Right, so they had to get rid of this guy. Dan's a great motivator. I like him. I know him. I've met him personally. He's getting out coached here in one series, so I wouldn't throw him under the bus for that. But it's a huge advantage in the series.
All right, so moving forward here, let's try and squeeze another couple of minutes here of playoff talk with our experts, Dennis Bernstein, Joe Yerdon. Joe, give me another series which has surprised you and in some way. Doesn't matter which conference.
The one that surprised me is New York and Ottawa. I don't think anybody was really expecting the Senators to be able to hang tough with New York, but the Rangers are very fortunate right now to be up 2-1. It took Henrik Lundqvist to stand tall last night to steal that one, to go up, to win it 1-0. And the way the Rangers kind of melted down in Game 2 to allow Ottawa to win that game. I don't think anybody was really expecting the Senators to hang it tough. Of course, nobody expected the Senators to make the playoffs. Everybody had them penned in to be at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. And I guess it just makes it storybook for Ottawa that they just keep exceeding expectations. But with how they played and how tough Craig Anderson's been in this series, they've really played above their heads. But I think if Ottawa can figure out a way to get Erik Karlsson a little bit more freedom on the ice, because the Rangers are cluing in on him. They can find a way to get him a little bit freer on the ice and get a little bit more out of Spezza and McCulloch. I think Ottawa can really make New York's life very miserable and push the series deep, go 6 or 7 games. To me, that's been a fascinating series to watch.
Yeah, Dennis, same question for you.
I'm surprised the Panthers are up 2-1. I'm surprised they were so good in the power play, and I'm shocked that they pulled Marty Brodeur out of a playoff game. I know he's 39. He's not the same guy, but I had the Devils going on to play the Rangers, which would have been a great, it still could be a great playoff round, but to have them up 2-1 here after getting a split down in South Florida, I'm kind of shocked that they came up so bad, especially with a 3-0 lead. You put that against the Devils, with their power, with the special teams, you think that's in the icebox, but they come back and win the game, so that was kind of a shocker.
All right, and final question as we go here. Joe, can the Sharks tie up the series against the Blues?
They can, but they got to stay out of the penalty box.
Yeah.
Their PK is just miserable. If they can shore that up and figure out a way, because the Blues are showing some cracks in their armor, and the goaltending isn't as quite as airtight as it was during the regular season. If they can get that around and start getting some action out of Thornton and Marleau, they can certainly get back in that series and push the Blues.